Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ladder Daily Digest. Today, we're going to be interviewing Gustavo Hernandez, who I guess you're muted right now, but that's okay. Welcome to the show, Gustavo. Tell us about your podcast.
Hi, Jane. Thank you for having me. My podcast is called Viajes de Fe, and that's Spanish for faith journeys. And it's basically a faithful LDS podcast meant for a Spanish speaking audience. If you think of maybe, I don't know, maybe Mormonism with a Murph or Saints Unscripted, it's a cheap combination of both.
Right. I'd like to let everybody know that Maven was going to try to be on this podcast, but she's experiencing some technical difficulties, and she'll be joining us at some future date, hopefully soon. I think that Radio Free Mormon is in the pipeline. What inspired you to start the podcast?
Well, around 7 years ago, I went through what's called the faith crisis. You know, I've learned about criticisms of the church. I read the CS letter. I found Mormon stories and all that material. And I remember that I was confused, didn't know what to think of it. Eventually, through some personal experiences, I decided to stay in the church. And later on, I began to find answers to my questions. As some came through what you call spiritual experiences, and others came through uh, content creators, you know. And in the past couple of years, I've seen that there are many content creators in English. I also saw that there's not just the faithful and not faithful approach. There is a huge spectrum of approaches. You can either be faithful and progressive, or faithful and conservative, or you can be unfaithful and Christian, or unfaithful and atheist. So uh, there are so many points of view, all of them very interesting. And I was looking back to what we have in Spanish, and we don't have anything. So I thought, well, I I want to be part of it. And I was thinking, what should my approach be? And then I thought, well, I'll create a channel I wish existed when I had my own questions. So that's what inspired me. I contacted Stephen Murphy from Mormonism with the Murph. And one time he said, hey, I like your channel. And he said, well, if you'd like to, you can share your story on the channel. And we had an interview around March. And that was the aha moment. I thought that I needed a huge budget or a studio to even try. So I thought, well, I can do it, and maybe I'll improve the production as time goes on, but I can start now. So I decided to start. I usually do interviews about people's faith journeys or about topics they study. Sometimes I cover some topics myself, but that's what got me started.
Did you start with topics yourself, or were you able to get somebody to be interviewed?
Well, I started with guests. The videos in which I do topics are rare because they require that I do some research. I write scripts and things like that. And, sometimes with school and work and family, sometimes I don't have a lot of time to do that. Sometimes it's easier to have an interview. Uh, but yeah, I was able to find people who were interested in coming on the show. My very first guest was a friend I met when I was a missionary in Tijuana. And then I began to contact people through YouTube and Facebook. And it's been great because we've always had guests. And for now, we haven't run out of people. So I think that's good.
That is good. Um, Latter Day Digest is, I formed it so that we could spread the word with podcasts large and small. Some people may not have heard of even some of the big podcasts. And we were thinking that if we can, honor creators and share their journeys with audiences, that people could, expand their viewpoints, expand their horizon, expand their the knowledge and their consumption of podcasts and other things too. Um, what has been the most memorable experience so far?
I think that connecting with people. When I started the channel, I was learning and getting introduced to the nuance behind believers and non-believers. And when I was able to have Steve Bineker on the show, and when we talked, I I realized that it it was no longer I'm an apologist and my channel is about apologetics. It's more about people. When it comes to, I mean, my channel doesn't teach the gospel. It's not the missionary lessons or things like that. Um, it's about people's faith journeys, and I want to stick to that. So that's my experience. That's the best I've had. I've been able to talk to people, both believers and non-believers, that for a while, both them and myself had no idea we had someone to talk to and we had someone to share our stories with. So creating this community and being part of that community, I think it's very special. And you can see how it helps people, and you begin to look at the human side. We won't always agree when it comes to our beliefs, and I think that's fair. And I've learned that that is not wrong, that good things can be done, and as a group, as people, there's much good we can do. And I think that my interview with Steve Bineker and my interview with a future guest, I think I haven't uploaded his interview yet, but those two interviews have opened my eyes, and it has been a good experience.
That's right. Other than getting on Steve Pineker's show, how were you able to spread the word about your podcast? Did you just email friends, or what did you do?
Well, I I contacted everyone I could, not to expand the audience, but because I wanted to have them on. And because of that, I've been able to also be on the show, like Murph. He had me, Steve, and I was also with Leo Winiger. And last week, I recorded an episode with Saints Unscripted. So I think that will help spread the word. I initially contacted them to have them on the show, not to be on their show, but to have them on. But they've been kind enough to give me a space in their channel, and I appreciate that. The main way that I spread was that when I created the channel, I always wanted to do something on YouTube. When I was a teenager, I fell in love with movies and I wanted to do something about that. But I didn't have the equipment. And when I tried to make a video about movies, I was afraid of sharing it with people. I was afraid to share it with my friends, and I didn't know if they would mock me or my opinions. So I was hesitant to do that. But I realized that if I wanted the channel to have an audience, I needed to do that. So when I uploaded my first video, I shared it on Facebook. That's where I got my first like 20 subscribers. And then the videos get, it depends on the topic, but some guests and some topics I think have been catchy enough that my friends who watch it share it. And then that's when I began to see people that I don't know come to the channel. So it's been slow. I think that, well, in Mexico, since we don't have any channels like this, it's either come follow me or someone complaining about the church. So there's those two extremes. There's no other opinion out there. So I think that it will take a while to show the perspective. Sometimes members of the church can think that I want to be critical. I don't, but I want to talk about things that don't get talked about that often. And and yeah, I think it's a matter of time, but it's growing little by little. We're close to 100 subscribers. I know that's small, especially compared to YouTube, but it's been a great journey so far.
That's right. Um, so you said mentioned some feedback you've gotten. Has any of the feedback helped you like have a better podcast?
Yes, and I think that the best feedback I got was from content creators themselves, like Murph and Steve primarily, and it helped me maybe not on a technical issue, but rather on the content itself and how to not sound too much like an apologist, or maybe on how to approach some topics with nuance, being open, and how I've talked to people who were not members of the church and who don't believe. And I'll upload those interviews later, uh, but they help me to take a fair approach, you know, without demonizing them or without you know, doing something wrong. So they've been able to help me to maintain a good approach in which I can be clear where I stand, but at the same time, making sure everyone feels welcome.
That's right. So we understand that Maven's, having her technical difficulties. Have you had any challenges like that for being a YouTuber? I know that I'm, learning how to do all the YouTube um, secret doors that get unlocked and stuff like that.
Yeah, when it comes to technical difficulties, I've had a lot. I mean, when I decided to create the channel, there were some topics I wanted to cover, but I wanted to bring someone who knew about those topics, because if a 22-year-old talks about polygamy, maybe you won't take me that seriously. So maybe I'll bring on someone who knows more about it than I do, right? So um, when I try to find someone in Spanish, I realized, well, there aren't that many people because this is not something that's covered in Spanish. I thought, well, what if I bring some guests and do the interview in English and then I add subtitles? So I chose to do that. So far, I think I have like 3 interviews uploaded. The one with Steve Pinecker, and a couple with Jim Bennett. And adding subtitles has been crazy because, for example, I work at customer support. So they gave me this, and for a while I used it, but I knew the audio quality wasn't very good.
You sound like
And
a co-pilot or something on an airplane.
yeah,
Sometimes when you lose something like that.
yeah, it was better than not having a microphone,
Hmm.
but I wanted to do better because I knew that it wasn't something I would listen to. So my beautiful wife got me this microphone for my birthday. I still need to learn audio mixing and things like that to improve the quality. But I got this and I've done some test interviews and it's been working out great. I also have this uh, light rings. I also got one of those, and it's better. I'm still trying to figure out lighting better, but I've I've improved the equipment little by little. I usually do reviews through Zoom, and I have zero budget. So
Right.
I don't have the premium account, so it only lasts for 40 minutes. So it's been a challenge when I'm talking to someone and I say, "Hey, the meeting's about to end. Can we stop
That's
and
right. Wrap it
uh,
up or do a part two.
yeah, yeah, and then
That
click on
reminds
the link
me,
again
I have some
and
light
things like
that
that."
I could do. I might as well use it. Ta-da! It's my ring technology. But
Yeah,
I'm losing
and
my
you know
light
it's
outside.
yeah, that happens to me too, especially now that it's a little late. If I didn't have this light, it would look something like this. So yeah, not too good.
That's right.
um, so yeah, adding subtitles has been the biggest technical difficulty, because there are softwares that can do that, but you need to pay. And I what I do now is that I have my personal email account and the channel's email account, and we both have like 60 minutes worth of automatic subtitles. So I do that. It adds the subtitles to English. So I just need to go back and type it to Spanish, but it's way easier that way. So that's what I
Well,
do. I hope that in the future I have enough to have a membership and automatically. But for now, those are some of the issues I.
do you have any goals coming up? Any milestones that you want to reach?
Yeah, so currently we're at, well, it's a very small goal. I put it a couple of months ago, but I wanted to reach the 100 subscribers. We're close to do that. I think we're just a couple of subscribers missing. Um, we have three 3K views, 3.5. So my next goal is 5,000, and there's also the hours, the watch time, and we have currently like 270 hours. So the goal is 500. And yes, those are my goals for now. And it will be fun, but also one of my goals is that none of the videos have less than 100 views. And 100 views might seem like too little, but when you're creating that content, those views mean a lot. So my current goal is to have all the videos above 100 views, and I want to scale up and let's say 200, for now. And I also want to have a comment section. Not too many people comment, maybe just my wife and the guest. So I think that my goal is to have at least 5 comments per video, something like that.
That's right. I had my brother comment on one of my videos the other day so that I could get another comment. um, let's see. So, um, Steve was on your show. I mean, you did a show with Steve, and then Steve was on your show as well. You did like a back and forth.
Yes, yes. Like I said at first, I contacted a bunch of people who I thought had interesting points of view. So I contacted Steve. I said, I think that what you do is pretty cool. I wanted to ask you if you were interested in having an interview for my small channel. And he said, sure. And then we talked and he said, would you like to be on the show too? And I said, sure. So that's how we
Right,
contact each other through email.
right. And so you mentioned Steve Pinecker's Mormon book reviews. I suppose you've seen a lot of his shows. Mormonism with the Murph. What other podcasters do you consume, or even books that you read, or any other things?
Well, I've been trying to get some books, but I can only get them through Amazon. And when you convert the price from dollar to Mexican peso, it's a little pricey. But I was able to make my very first purchase. I bought Roughstone Rolling. I hope to expand the collection with time, but I have one book. um, with podcast, I consume, well, there are some podcasts I consume for entertainment purposes, and some I consume for research purposes. But yeah, I've consumed all of them. Mormonism Live, Mormon Stories, um, and Mormonism with the Murph. I also listen to the Comeback podcast. So, since I'm a member of the church, I usually listen more to the Faithful podcast than to other podcasts. But I've listened to all of them. I listen to Steve Mormon Book Reviews. Now I'll listen to Letter Daily Digest,
That's right. I'm up to, I
and
think, 60 subscribers now.
yeah, and it'll grow. I think it's a really cool concept, introducing everyone to different podcasts, and yeah, I listen to those. I listen to other people, but I don't think those are considered podcasts, more like just videos. But those are the main podcasts I listen to.
That's right. And we promise to be on your show coming up, maybe in a week or two. And hopefully I'll be able to get this show out. I heard from a relative that it's like a long lost, like second cousin, twice removed, or something like that, who has done some beats, and he has a really small channel. And I kind of liked his music, and I said, "Hey, can I use that music for some bumper music?" And they said, "Okay." And so I'm going to try to figure out how to put in like a lead in bumper music and maybe some music on the way out. But that's some technology I might have to get some young person to help me with coming up. But anyway, thanks, Gustavos, for coming on Ladder Daily Digest. And, it's an interesting journey. You and I are relatively rookies for doing our shows. And there's only one place to go for us but up. So
Yeah,
congratulations on your show. Um, I've watched a couple of them, and I'm gonna get some more that I can watch, and can't wait to see your coming shows. So have a great day.
thank you, Gene.
All right, bye bye, everybody.